One of my advisories was for the non-obligatory brake lamp not working, but it was working. It was working then and it's working now. I've changed the bulb in it anyways to be belt and braces, but I don't think that was the problem. I think the tester may have hit the wrong button on his little computer. I think what it may have been is this. This is the indicator bulb, and as you can see, all the orange is breaking down on it. So when you turn the flashes on, it flashes quite white. That was an advisory I had on the Mini previously, so I think he's made a mistake. I think that's what he referred to, because there's nothing wrong with the brake lamp. Anyway, I'm going to replace them both, so that will be that done. That's really in bad shape. The other thing I'm going to do today is my other advisory, which is the drop link. So there's the old one, there's the new one. It's really quick and easy job. The only thing I have to do is, you can see this one's broken, so the little sort of bolts with the ball joint at the end of it, they've popped off and I can't open them, so I'm gonna have to cut them off. So that's just more of a faff than I'd like it to be, but it won't take very long. And then while the wheels are off, I'm actually going to start refurbing them, because they're way overdue a refurb. They're in bad condition. That's really crappy. That's really rough. So they need to get, I'm going to do those today. Well, you know, it's a nice day for it. It's not too windy, it's not too hot or cold, it's a good old day for it. And then the last jobs I need to do is, I need to find a jacking point cover for it. I found one for the left rear, I haven't found one for that side. And then tomorrow, maybe, depending on how today goes, I'm going to get a heat gun to this sticker, take that side stripe off and put a new one on. I have those for it already. I always find it's a good idea when you're finished the project to have some follow-on jobs to do, because I find it really hard to go from being out here for 8-10 hours to suddenly having nothing to do. So these sort of quite relaxing, non-stressful, non-gravel eating little jobs to do help to kind of wean me off the project and return me to civilian life, as it were. And if I get a bit of time tomorrow, I'm also going to get stuck into the Subaru, because that's way overdue a refurb on the wheels as well. So yeah, nice weekend planned, I think. Progress hasn't been as fast as I thought it was going to be, partly because the drop link was not an easy one. The old one was not easy to get off. I mean, I pulled the drop link off the little ball joints pretty quickly, but getting those studs out was really difficult. They were on there pretty well. I'd cut one off, and then the other one took a lot of work to get to, but they're off and the new drop link is on, so I'm happy with that. So now I'm at the wheel refurb stage. I'm just about to start this wheel, so I just wanted to give you a look at it as to how it presently looks. This isn't the worst wheel by any means, but you can pretty much see it's curbed all the way around pretty much. A few little gouges. Spoke is knackered here. You know, it's pretty much a 360 mess, and then there are a few little gouges out of some of the spokes. You know, and then in addition to that, inside here you've got a lot of this ground in, just not maintained, not cleaned properly, sort of brake dust just embedded in the corners. So job one will be to give it a good clean, and I've got these little things as well, these little nooks, which are quite tricky. But job one will be to give all that a good clean, and then sand it all down and just get it as smooth as I can. Over here, this is the first wheel I've done. This one is kind of pretty much ready to start priming. I'm just letting it dry because I've given it one last wash down. After this, I'm going to rub it down in white spirit and then let that dry, and then I'm going to start masking it up. But it's pretty much ready to go. It took a lot of sanding to get the surface smooth. You know, there's a few gouges in the spokes that needed to be sanded back and taken down, and then you'll see these little black marks around the place. What these are, that's alloy wheel putty that I've just put in there, let it dry, and then came out this morning and sanded it down. It takes a couple of hours for it to dry in, and then just let it sand down. And once I put a finish on that will look pretty good. I also had to do the center cap on this one, which I wasn't really happy about. This is what a good one looks like, but on this wheel the lacquer was breaking down on the metal part, so I had to separate it from the cap and sand it down and repaint that. But I don't intend to do that for the other ones if I can avoid it, because it is a faff. Sun is going down, dew is starting to fall, and that calls an end to play for me. I've got a bit of a production line going here as regards the wheels. This is all sanded down and wiped down with white spirit, and now ready to be masked up. So this is kind of how they start the final phase of refurbishment. After that, they go into masking, which is where I am here. You can see this wheel here had a big gouge taken out of it. I filled that in with putty, sanded it back. I'm really pleased with how that's come out, if I'm honest with you. That's going to look fantastic. After masking, to go into primer, and I've used an etch primer, which I've never used before, and this is specifically for aluminium. Difficult to stick to surfaces like aluminium, so and it has paid off. The finish on, even in a primer stage, is amazing. And then I'm back to this wheel here, which is in paint, and I've used a good quality paint. I've gone cheap on wheel paint before, and it hasn't paid off. Really happy with how these have come out as well, but they could do with another coat, this wheel, so I'm going to rush through this so I can do that, because time is running out, and now it's falling, and as I say, the dew is starting to fall, and that ruins your paint finish. And as for the car itself, well, yesterday I got the drop link in. That fought me, as you would expect, because Fiesta. But then I decided to paint the brake calipers red. I thought, if I've got nice new wheels, nice new tires, nice shiny paint, and then these crappy, horrible brake calipers in behind, I thought a little bit splash of red would make them pop. Not something I would normally do, and in fact the Elan had red brake calipers, and I painted them black because I didn't like them. But on this car, I think that'll work. It suits the nature of the car, and also it's a bit of rehearsal, because the Subaru next weekend I've got to do the same thing I've done with the Fiesta. I've got to refurb the wheels, and I've got to, these should be black, or sorry, should be red. They were originally red on the car, so I'm going to do the wheels in silver, and I'm going to do these red, and again just to lift the appearance of the Subaru a little bit. But that's for next weekend. This weekend I just need to get this as much of this buttoned down now as I can in the next 15-20 minutes, and then knock it on the head, because I'm out of time. Can't paint when the dew is falling. End of. I'm now at kind of the tail end of the wheel refurbishment. They've been painted, they've been primed, and then painted with about, I guess, probably 2 or 3 coats of silver metallic. Really tricky wheels to paint because there's so many spokes, and the gap between them is quite narrow, so getting your paint down in there with an aerosol, quite tricky. But I do use, I think I've showed you this before, it's just a little attachment that goes on over. It doesn't really do anything very fancy, but it just gives you that extra bit of movement that you don't normally get with a can. It also keeps the paint off your fingers, which is useful. The other thing I had to do was I had to put lacquer on the wheels, just a little bit, because the center caps have a shine to them, and the contrast was a bit strong without a little bit of a shine on the wheels as well. Now, they're not gloss finished by any means, because I don't really want that, but they are definitely shiny. So they've been lacquered, and what I'm doing now is I'm just sort of machine polishing them to get the shine really up. So this one's almost done. I'm just going to take all the masking off, and then dress the wheels and put them on the front. And the back ones are already on, and they are looking all fantastic. I think I'm really pleased with how they've come out. They're not perfect by any means, but they're good enough. When you have them on the table in front of you, and you're looking at them, and you're a foot away from them, you see all the little flaws and blemishes. But once they're on the car, they sit so low, and just the angle that you look at them, you don't really see all those little flaws and blemishes. Just the overall, just aesthetic, just needs to be clean and consistent, and that's all they really need to pop. And then in addition, I've got my little red brake calipers in behind. They're sizzling away, and I think they really suit the car. There aren't many cars, I think I said yesterday, that I would do that to, but I think they're going to work on the Fiesta, and just with nice clean wheels, new tires, I just think they're going to lift the whole thing up. So I'm going to get the wheels on, give it a bit of a wash because it's picked up some bird poo, and then I'm going to take it out on this lovely sunny evening for a quick drive. I think I need to go to the shop for some essential supplies. I've been very keen to take the little Fiesta out for a drive and share those driving impressions with you, but I've been a bit reticent about doing it up to now, because for the first 100 miles after any rebuild, I spend all that time listening out for rattles and knocks and rumbles and things that might be amiss. And I'm also going through that mental checklist where I'm asking myself, have I bolted everything together properly? Well, now I'm nearly 200 miles in, so I'm pretty comfortable that everything is going to hang together okay, and I've got a bit of wheel time under the car, so I know a little bit more about it. I can speak with a little bit of authority about what it's like to drive a Fiesta ST, and of course this is my first experience of driving one of these cars. Never drove one before. So what is it like? Well,
It's definitely not as polished a thing, say, as a Clio 182 or Cooper S, but it is a fun little thing in its own right, and better than I was expecting, I have to confess. Is it quick? Well, off the line, the numbers would suggest no, but this has got a big engine in a small car, big capacity 4-banger, and because of that, and because of the really clever gearing on it, it feels very quick. It's a good engine, not the smoothest motor in the world, but it does like to rev. It doesn't make the worst sound in the world, but it's very keen on the throttle, so it's a very easy car to keep moving along. Chassis wise, again, when I got into it first, it was all a bit tight, a bit cranky. Now it's loosened up a little bit, and I have to say that the ride quality is definitely firm and sporty, but it is just about tolerable. It isn't too crashy, it isn't too busy, it's acceptable. In terms of the handling, the steering is really sharp, really keen. You can do it a bit more feedback, a little bit more body roll, I dare say. But overall, it's a really fun little thing to drive. Now, there's one other thing to consider, of course, and that is that these cars, Clio 182, Mini Cooper, Fiesta SE, they're all a decade and a half or more old now. So, what are they like all this time later? Well, this is admittedly a low mileage car, 64,000 miles, but it feels like a new car. There's very little wear on it. There's no rattles or anything out of the interior. It is very, very surprisingly fresh. And then when you factor in the fact that it is a mechanically very simple car, and it's a Ford, so parts were really cheap. Drop link is £7. Whole clutch kit, £80, I think. I could even buy a second-hand wheel for 30-40 quid if I needed it. It's an easy car to keep on the road, and because of that, you're more inclined to enjoy it and drive it. The Cooper S, on the other hand, was a very sophisticated car by comparison, but it was also mechanically sophisticated, and that means that there was more things to go wrong, and they did. And even though I did a lot more work on this car than I did to the Mini cost me as much just to keep it on the road. So, as a sort of near new or neo-modern classic, I'd kind of edge toward this. Bear in mind as well, this has kind of a bit of a cult following, and it just has a bit more, I don't know, the Mini is an awesome car, properly fast, proper handling car, and this, it isn't in the same league as the Mini, but as a thing, there's a little bit of magic about it. It's that fast forward thing, I think. You either get it or you don't. That combined with the fact that selling this on is going to be much easier than selling the Mini on. The Mini, people are wary of it because of the problems, whereas with this, it's just a simple basic car and they're insurable. I think this will go for strong money when I go to move it on. But that'll have to wait a little while because I want to enjoy it a little bit first. My lovely wife has once again done it to me. I've bought this car with a view to doing it up and setting it on quickly, and now she's taken it for a few drives and she loves it and wants to hang on to it. We'll see. We'll have that conversation down the line. But in the meantime, I did want to use it myself a little bit, and in order to do that, there's a few things I like to do to every car. One of them is upgrade the audio system. Now, the standard system in this is quite a good, I mean, Ford generally do fairly good stereos. This is a 6 CD changer that is standard in it, but we only have a handful of radio stations around here and we don't really listen to CDs, so I'm going to do 2 installs on the radio separately, and hopefully they will both work because they work in different sort of parts of the stereo. Now, the first one has turned up today, and that is this. It is a digital radio kit, and the way it works is there's a controller, just a box here basically that does the tuning, that has an FM radio built into it, so that will talk to the stereo, and then you've got a little remote control, which there's this useless coin slot up here, and I think that just sits really neatly in there, so I think we found a home for that.
It's crying out for it actually. And so that should then talk to the RDS system in the car and do all the DAB display stuff on the stereo itself. And then the only other thing you need is to put the antenna on the windscreen. Now the windscreen has a quick clear system on it. I don't know if you can see that or not. You see the little wires running through it there. Where are we? Up there. I don't know if you can see them. But that will impede the reception. So if the reception is rubbish, what I might do is pull the roof antenna out and put one of the ones like I have in the Lotus in there, which combines DAB and FM. We'll see. This one will probably be fine. But the kit is about 40 quid, and it comes with everything. So it's a cheap and easy upgrade. I don't even have to take the stereo out to put this in. So that'll be my little job for this afternoon. Pop that in and upgrade the car to digital radio for 40 quid, all in, including the antenna. Not bad. You join me mid-installation of the audio upgrades. It looks like a bit of a train wreck, but it really isn't. It's not bad. So what have I done? Well, the first thing I've done is I put in my digital radio kit. So there's the control box in there. That's it there. It's tie wrapped onto the, oh, sorry about that. It's tie wrapped onto the support bars that hold the dashboard up. That's all it needs. It doesn't need to be screwed onto anything. And what it does is it reads a digital signal from the antenna on the windscreen and it transmits it as an FM signal to the radio. And what's really neat about it is that the radio then picks up whatever station you listen to as an RDS signal. So it looks fully integrated. And there's no need to take the dashboard apart. You just pop it in, nice and simple. It's controlled via this remote control here, which again, this is a coin slot that's doing nothing. So, and this doesn't need to be hardwired in at all. This is just stick on. It's like a TV remote. It only activates when you push a button. So that was a gap that was bugging me anyways. I'm happy to fill that gap in. And the second thing I have here, which is I'm in mid process of putting in, is the Bluetooth system. So there it is. Wires in, so this loom bit here, this is what normally clicks into the back of stereo. So this basically sits in between the stereo and the traditional loom and takes a couple of feeds off to be able to feed audio in and out. And then there's your control box, and then there's the audio which feeds into the microphone. And that's what I'm in the process of doing right here. I've got the microphone at the end of this wire here. But I need to feed it down inside the dashboard, which is why there's a piece of coat hanger sticking up. So I'm going to feed that down in as far as here, and then I know that I can feed the coat hanger in through there and pull the wire across the dashboard there. Once that's done, I click that in here and hopefully put the whole lot together, and I'll have Bluetooth, a phone kit and digital radio while still keeping that OEM look. Looks like it's going to work out. Fingers crossed. So it's all in and all buttoned up, and we've been using it for a couple of days actually, so I can now tell you with confidence that it actually works pretty well. So you turn on the radio and put it to station 1, and it defaults to the DAB. Oh, now it's trying to re-find it. It defaults to the DAB radio setting. Now obviously that's not going to work because the ignition is off, but if I turn the ignition on, click, the DAB unit, which is behind the dashboard, kicks in, and the display will change to show whatever station we're now listening to. Now you'll notice that I have swapped these around. You get the point. And while that doesn't look 100% flush, again, it's one of those things I'd have to point out to you before you'd notice it. It's a quick and easy swap. They just pop out and swap around and go back in. A bit of fiddling with the cable behind, obviously, but this is something that I'll use all the time. These are something that I use very occasionally, so I'm much happier with this arrangement, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure if I looked at on left-hand drive websites or auction sites, I'll be able to get a set of these for a left-hand drive car. So I've literally just had that idea, so I might do that. Okay, so the aux port, the way that works is I put this on aux. And how it's a Bluetooth system, but it's basically a virtual 3.5mm cable. So I'll just use my wife's phone because I can't use this one, and I'll play it through, and hopefully this will pick it up. And oh yeah, I got to turn the volume up on both of them. There you go. This is my wife's phone, by the way. I
take no responsibility for the music picked. But that's how it works. I can make a phone call, there's a mic up here, or I can listen to music, and the sound quality is really, really good, but it is very basic, and anything I need to do, I need to stop and use the phone manually. So, but it is a little bit better than just an ordinary 3.5mm aux port, because I don't have any cables lying around the car, and I can have the phone in my pocket or wherever. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, and the total cost, 55 quid. Can't argue with that. One other thing to tell you about is the key. When we got the car, there was a master key, and there was one of these remote control keys, and I wanted a second one. So I ordered it online. You need to be careful because a lot of them don't come with the transponder chip. Obviously you need the transponder chip to make the car start. So to get it online is about 20 quid. And then using the 4Scan software and the little cable that I have, I was able to actually program this key to start the car. Programming the remote control bits is easy. That's just you fiddle it in with the ignition, I think 4 times on and off, and then you hit both keys that you want to program, and the program to the car. So the remote control bit is easy, but the car bit is tricky. But I'll just put the clutch now, and fires up first time. The interesting thing, the difficult thing, was getting the key cut. Most key cut places don't want to touch Ford's TB keys. They'll go to send them off, and they won't cut your one anyways. They'll make you use one of theirs. Found a guy downtown in Swindon that will do it for me. And actually, he told me he could have done the whole thing, supplied the key, cut it, and programmed it to the car for 50 quid. This cost me 20. Getting it cut cost me 20. And the 4Scan cable, well, I had that anyway, so I'm not going to count that. But if you were to do all that just to get the key sorted, that would be another 20 quid. So 60 quid to get all that done. Plus, then there's the uncertainty of whether you get the right key online and whether the whole thing takes or not, versus going to this guy and 50 quid, and if it doesn't work, obviously he's not going to charge you full whack for it. So good to know, because in future I'm going to use him if I have a car that needs a second set of keys. The Subaru, when I got it, only came with one key and no master key, and to get a second key for that was £300 from a main dealer. So 40 quid for this, or 50 if I got the chap to do it. I know where I'll be going next time. With the stereo and the key now done, those were the last 2 kind of tricky jobs that I was planning to do on the Fiesta. So everything else has just been detailing, like for example refurbishing the exhaust, machine polishing the exhaust tip, and then putting some high temperature paint on the inside just to clean that up, make it look like new. Changed out the plates because I hate the dealer plates with the little blue banner on the side. Replaced the number plate bulbs with LED bulbs because they make better light, and all the interior bulbs as well, they're all LEDs as well. I've also replaced high mounted brake light, which is a tricky job to do because you've got to get 2 screwdrivers and feed them in through little recesses at the back of the boot. Once you've done it once, it's easy, but the first time it's a bit of a leap of faith because you really don't know what you're doing. I've replaced all the wipers, just a standard one on the back, but I've got 2 of the fancy blade ones on the front. Side stripes are on. These are not original Ford ones, they're knockoffs, but they're 15 quid, a little bit thicker, but I think they look great. The headlamps I've already showed you, they're polished. EST badges refurbed, bit of red enamel paint nicked from the brake calipers, and then wet and dry sandpaper on those. I had to do the tracking on the front wheel here. It wasn't pulling straight, and I just assumed that it was because I took the track rod end off this to get the power steering boot on. So what I did was cracked it open and just did a quarter of a turn, trial and error, until eventually got it pointing straight and true, and now it is. And that is it. That's the last job. The only other thing I've got to do is get the air conditioning refurbed. I'm going to bring that to AutoWorks here in Swindon, who did my Mini. They do a full pressure test with nitrogen, they do a full flush, and they get it working properly. So it's expensive at 130 quid, but I brought it to the high street places in the past and it has never worked properly, so it's worth the investment to get that right, and that will be it. So what does it stand me? Well, my original budget was 2 grand. In total it now stands me 3054. I've been meticulous about how much it costs, but that I think is still cracking value. We can enjoy this for a few months until I get something else and my wife decides that's what she wants, and we can sell it for 4 grand then all day long. So you can't beat that, and it's a fun, very presentable, very clean little car. We love it. So that's it. Project ST is over and out.